welcome back to this edition of 1-1 Sports. I'm Charles William Strasser IV.
And I'm Jackson Thomas Marcus.
And today we'll be talking NHL.
And the NBA.
And it all starts right now. Let's get things started with the quick hitters. Starting off in the world of college football, the conversation has been around Jim Harbaugh. We talked about it the last time around, but now the punishment, the hammer has come down from the NCAA, and the punishment being is that he can be there at practice throughout the week, but he cannot be on the sideline during game day, apart or at least until the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I like to see that the NCAA is still letting these players play in the postseason if they make it that far, and letting their coach be there for them. But what I'm excited to see, I should say, is where is he sitting in the stadium? Is he up in a press box, or is he nowhere in sight?
I don't know. There's got to be some type of restriction or order. They draw a line in the sand and they say you can't pass this line.
Right, and make sure he doesn't have a hat and sunglasses on.
And I'm sure they're very strict with those protocols.
Yeah, it's good to see NCAA bringing the hammer down on something that actually matters.
But I also think that if they're going to be doing this, they got to start doing round checks of the entire stadium, make sure no one's recording on their phones, some signs, making sure they're not illegally selling that back to the schools themselves. And we talked about it last time around, the conversation around really the transparency between sign stealing or calling plays in the huddle. And it's something that the reason it is this way is so that schools are on an even playing field.
Yeah, I think at some point you're going to reach a level where schools aren't, and you're going to reach a level where the NCAA lets teams have those headsets in their helmets and have those monitors so that they can reach the coaches on the sideline, because I don't think this is going to be the end of it. I think more stuff will come out. I think the spread of these signs to the rest of the Big Ten and even beyond that might have ramifications for other teams, but I think I like that they're pinpointing into Michigan.
Well, I think even Michigan was like, hey, we're not the only ones doing it. Yeah. But nevertheless, let's move on to basketball, where the big trade that just happened early in the season, there was rumors abound. Harden was in Philadelphia, wasn't in Philadelphia, wasn't playing. Now he is in L.A. with Russell Westbrook, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. Your thoughts?
Yes, Clippers have started 0-2 since getting Harden in the trade, since he's played, I should say. And I know it's just adding to Harden's string of going to a team for a couple seasons and wanting out and forcing his way out. With the Nets, we saw him get to the Nets that way to be on a super team, and nothing came of it. We saw him get to the 76ers the same way, and now he's on to the Clippers. And I think that this might be the best chance he's got of that super team actually working, with Kawhi and Paul George maybe being healthy finally to get all 82. Probably not all 82, but still. I think that it's a lot to happen so early in the season, and a big change to happen so early in the season, but not unexpected coming from James Harden.
I think it's good for the Sixers because you get a lot of defensive depth for a player that wasn't going to play for you anyway, but I agree that this has been the trend with Harden, even back with the Rockets, bringing in Chris Paul, then they brought in Russell Westbrook, and it's just been this string of, will this work, and will Harden fit in the system? And he said it himself, he is the system. But I think when you have four players that demand that respect and demand the ball so much, it's going to be tough to get them all the looks.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we saw, like with Russell Westbrook on the Lakers and teams before the Clippers, that he can play that backseat role some and be a facilitator and still get his minutes and still get his points where he needs to get it.
I think the Clippers will end up doing a similar thing that the Warriors are doing right now with Chris Paul, where they have him come off the bench. That way you have a more balanced lineup with Harden, George, and Kawhi. One less mouth to feed.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the Warriors, I love what Chris Paul had to say about, I can come off the bench and score 2 points and my team can still win, because he's a facilitator and he knows his role, and I think Westbrook needs to find that.
I think he also dropped double-digit assists in that game.
That's
so
true.
He is definitely doing his job. And finally, probably one of the most interesting headlines, because these brothers have been in every single headline, whether it's been about Taylor Swift or the brotherly shove. Now they're in the headlines for, and I'm reading this correct, the sexiest men alive. Travis took home sexiest People's Magazine's Sexiest Athlete, and Jason was a finalist for just Sexiest Man, period.
Yeah, that puts Jason up in some high quality. I liked what he said about it's in the eye of the beholder. It was very classy of him and humble, but there were some other quotes that came out on other interviews that where he let himself feel it a little bit. But, you know, it went to McDreamy, Patrick Dempsey, but I think that to see Jason Kelce with all the rise that he's gotten, everyone's talking about Travis for the whole beginning of this season, and then Bradley Shove comes around. We talked about it last time, and now Jason's getting his flowers.
I think if I was Jason and Travis, I'd be patting myself on the back just a tad to get that kind of accolade. I mean, that has to go above, you know, the Super Bowl rings.
Right, I think so.
I think for me, I mean, Jason says he keeps his Super Bowl ring in a sock, so who knows where he's going to keep the plaque that says Sexiest Man of 2023.
Yeah, I think that this is a good look. Maybe Jason can get even higher and win it one year.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, that'll be all for the quick hitters. Next up, we're heading to the ice. It's the NHL.
Welcome back to One-on-One Sports. We're now talking about the NHL with Ethan Potash and Harry Haber. Now, we're going to start, it's not even a month into the season, but we're going to start with our most surprising team so far. Harry, what do we got?
Yeah, there's lots of, surprising teams right now. It is still early, like you said, but I'm going to go with the Vancouver Canucks. They were ranked 24th in preseason rankings, so no one really expected them to make the playoffs. Excluding the 2020 season, they haven't made it since 2015. They're currently second in the Western Conference behind the reigning champion Vegas Golden Knights, and they have a record of 10-2-1. They have 3 players in the top 4 of plus-minus, Quinn Hughes, Philip Hronek, and JT Miller. They also have Elias Pettersson, who leads the NHL in points of 24. So I just think they have a lot of depth. Their goalie, Demko, also has a 1.61 goals against average. So he's very good, second in the league. You need good goaltending in order to win. I think they've been very surprising. We'll see if they can keep this up. But as of right now, they're looking like they're shocking everyone right now.
Yeah, from Canada to America, what do we got here?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Vancouver's been surprising, but I'm going to go with the Anaheim Ducks. They are 1 year removed from being literally the worst team in the NHL. Last year they had 58 points, 32nd out of 32 teams. They were 23, 47, and 12. This year they're 7-5 in their first 12 games, so they've definitely surpassed expectations. Some of the biggest stories, Frank Petrano coming out of nowhere. He has 9 goals in 12 games so far. Mason McTavish has taken the next step that they've hoped. He's got 13 points in 12 games. They've gotten elite goaltending from both Lucas Dostal and John Gibson. They're both currently above a .920 save percentage. One's played 6 games, one played 7 games. Getting that kind of goaltending obviously helps any team. And they've done this all with Trevor Zegras, who's supposed to be their franchise player, having a really slow start, only 2 points in 12 games, 1 goal, 1 assist. Anaheim has surpassed expectations so far, for sure.
Yeah, we've seen surprising teams so far in this season, but we're now seeing more and more contenders really shine through. What contender are you seeing?
So lots of good teams in the NHL. I'm going to go with the Bruins, as much as it pains me to say. I know they had a historic collapse last year, and I was actually thinking about going with the bold take that they're going to collapse again, but they're just too good not to. Again, Ethan, with what you're saying, goaltenders, they have Ullmark and Swayman. Both have a sub-2-3 goals against average. Swayman actually leads the NHL in goals against average, so they have an elite goaltending tandem. They're tied right now for the best record in the NHL. I can't really see them losing again in the first round, but who knows? Crazier things have happened. They had the best record in NHL history last year. Obviously, that didn't really help them much with the Panthers. So, unless there's another Cinderella run from another, low-seeded team like that, I don't think there's any reason why the Bruins won't, make it far. They don't have a ton of huge MVP contenders right now on their team, but they're very deep. So that's who I'm going with my top team. Right
After an epic collapse, looking to turn it back around. What do we got on the other side?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my preseason cup pick, and I'm going to take the Dallas Stars. They've passed every test so far. They're currently 6th in the league. They're rolling. Ottinger looks good. The defense, which was the really only question mark, looks good. Haskinen's been really good. Pavelski, old man Pavelski, he's almost 40 years old. I think he's 39, still trucking along. Jason Robertson is still Jason Robertson. They've looked really good.
Yeah.
And sorry to cut you off, Jack.
No
but
worries.
I also want to talk about a team that I think is a pretender.
Okay.
And this is a team that's actually gotten off to a good start, but it's the LA Kings. They, like, I almost remember when we were picking overrated teams a couple weeks ago, Harry. I almost picked them as my overrated team. They're currently 8-2-2, but I'm just not buying it. I mean, to win in this league, you need one of two things. You either need star power, like superstars, or elite goaltending, and they really have neither. They have good players. Adrian Kempe, very good player. Kopitar's been there for 15 years. He's incredible. But none of them are true superstars. You know, Doughty's not the stud he once was. Still good, but he's not the cup-winning defenseman anymore. And Cam Talbot has currently put up like a .930 save percentage. That's not gonna hold. He's not doing
Tough
that.
to win with Cam Talbot. No shade to him. But.
Yeah, I mean, that's not gonna hold. You're not going to put that up for the whole season. He's going to come back down to earth. I think the Kings are pretenders.
Yeah, after those contenders and potential pretenders in the LA Kings, we now look at the MVP picks. I know it's early, but what do we got on that side?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Jack Hughes. I think he was some people were picking him before the season, and he also had some people that were still a bit bullish. I hope I used that right, bullish on him. But yeah, he's averaging 2 points a game right now. He's got 20 points in 10 games. And when Jack Hughes is on the ice, the Devils look like an elite team. When he's not on the ice, they look like an average team with a really good power play. Honestly, these last couple of games since he's been hurt, they've looked kind of lost without him. It's become apparent to me that he really drives that team. Jesper Bratt's a very good player, but it seems that he hasn't been able to carry the load without Hughes. And Toffoli is completely relying on Hughes because he doesn't create a lot for himself. He can score, but he's not going to create the play. He relies on Hughes to create the play for him.
Yeah, no bias there at all, I'm sure. But, Harry, what do we got on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, Jack Hughes, amazing player. Devils are kind of looking a little bit lost without him. He's really carried that team. But I'm going to go with Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm going to have him winning the Hart Memorial Trophy like he did in 2022. He currently has the most goals in the NHL. So right now, kind of a no-brainer. He wasn't really projected, too high to start the season, but he's been, surging up the rankings for potential MVP picks. He's also 8th in points of 19, but, he's going to go out there and score you goals. I think a lot of it is going to depend on if the Maple Leafs can make another, run into the playoffs. Right now, they're about, middle of the pack in the Atlantic Division. So we'll see if, he can continue to carry, and help them win some hockey games. But he's been a very good player, very strong, and if he can keep up with this production, 13 goals in 13 games is quite phenomenal. So we'll see if he can keep that up.
Yeah, well, thank you, gentlemen, on a great talk on early NHL. Now we're going to throw it over to NBA.
The NBA in-season tournament is here. I've got Jacob Blank and Miles Hayford to break it down for us. Miles, explain what exactly the in-season tournament is, just at a basic level, because it seems like it's kind of complicated for the casual viewer.
Yeah, it's not just a tournament that's like a weekend. It's going to be going on until the early December. It features a group stage and a knockout stage. So all 30 teams are going to be divided into 6 groups of 5 teams within each of their conferences. And then group play will consist of 4 games played against their different group mates. And then the 6 best teams with the best record in group play will advance to the knockout stage along with 2 wild cards. And then the knockout stage is just your standard single elimination tournament, leading to a championship in Las Vegas in early December. And every game except the championship is going to count as a regular season game. So there's that. And then the reward, $500,000 for each player.
Now, $500,000, the cup, it all sounds really nice. But Jacob, I was told that this in-season tournament was one to get the casual viewer to pay attention to more games, but to have it spread out for so long, what are your thoughts on that?
It's not just the casual viewers that are trying to tune into the game. It's more for the players to try more during the regular season. I think that a knock on the regular season the past couple of seasons has been players are not trying as hard, and like injuries are increasing. So now they're talking about lowering the games, but now this I think is going to help boost like a little bit of a more of a like they earn something more now for playing these games instead of just going out there, getting hurt, being banged up for playoff time, and yeah.
Well, now in the NBA, there's all these more rules with load management because it's been such an issue over the last couple of years. Some players have said that this in-season tournament has provided kind of a playoff atmosphere. I think what is provided is ugly courts and ugly uniforms, but that's my opinion. Miles, now for your opinion, how do you even start to predict who might win this, and who do you have?
I mean, it is really complicated to predict who's going to win it because it might not be the best team because it's like throughout the regular season, so a team might just have a good game, and it's single elimination. It's not best of series like the regular NBA playoffs. But I think the Celtics come out on top. I think they're just too talented with Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Porzingis, and I think they might beat the Pelicans in the championship. I see C.J. McCollum and Zion Williamson making a run in the knockout stage.
I think it's interesting, like you said, that those final couple games will be played in Las Vegas. There's all these rumors that NBA might put a team there. Maybe this is the trial for it. Jacob, who do you have taking the first ever NBA Cup in Las Vegas?
Well, I'm going to take the team that beat the Celtics and gave them their first regular season loss, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think that they're clicking in all angles right now. Anthony Edwards is playing like a top 5 NBA player right now in the NBA. Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns, they're figuring it out. And that was the biggest knock on last season, was chemistry issues. We saw Rudy Gobert and Kyle Anderson fighting in the last game of the regular season. And then Jaden McDaniels punching, a wall and broke his hand. He was out for the playoffs. And now Mike Conley, from what I've heard, he hasn't turned over the ball since the first game of the regular season. So they're clicking all cylinders. So I have the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Now, this is the first time the in-season tournament is happening for the 2023-2024 season. Do you see this being a staple of the NBA, similar to how the play-in tournament was something that came around during COVID because of the bubble, but now it's something that fans can look forward to towards the end of the season?
I do think it's going to become a staple. I think it's a huge revenue opportunity for the NBA, so they're not going to just stop doing this after 1 year. I do think there are some disadvantages to it, some cons. I mean, no team's just going to play their stars significant amount of minutes, even in the championship, when it just counts as one regular season game. It's, $500,000, but that really only matters for the bench players, really. It doesn't matter for the stars. But I think the NBA is definitely going to keep doing this because it's going to bring in a lot more revenue and a lot more viewership.
And like the great Professor Troggett said, what's $500,000 to a couple NBA players? Jacob, what about you? Do you see this being something that the NBA builds upon, that fans can get excited about, that players can get excited about?
I'm not exactly sure, to be honest, but I think that for a casual viewer, they have to make it a little less complicated in a way, because as somebody who's a hardcore fan, it took a lot of research for me to even understand the entire thing. I think that as the years go on, the rules will be more like affirmative, that now players will know exactly what's going on when they're playing in these games. And I think that they're going to build upon this, and I think this should be a success.
Well, thank you, Jacob, Miles, for breaking down the in-season tournament for us. Next up, we'll close out the show and end off this episode of 1-1 Sports. Thank you for watching this edition of 1-1 Sports.
For more, like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram.
Until next time,
Whose side are you on?
I'm getting a good throw.
I'm going Harry. Oh, we're standing up? Oh!